Joining us now is Sheitan Atigarin. Which story is trending around the world? Hello, Sheitan.
Hello, Doctor.
Thank God it's Friday.
Thank God it's Friday.
I see you are already in the Friday mood.
I am already got my hair did and everything ready to go.
Ready to go.
Abby, you look so nice.
Thank you. So do you. Good morning.
Rufai, how are you?
Hi, Sheitan. How are you? Good morning.
All right, then
Happy Friday. Yeah.
Happy Friday. Let's kick off what's trending.
Yeah.
U.S. President Joe Biden has signed his first executive orders as the president, including reversing a Donald Trump administration travel ban on 13 countries, which are mainly Muslim and African nations. President Biden also signed an executive order to repeal the immigrant visa ban on Nigeria and other nations, barring their citizens from settling in the United States permanently. The executive order also returns the U.S. back to the Paris Climate Agreement and stops the construction of the border wall with Mexico. Joe Biden isn't wasting any time, his first day in office. And there's a particular picture I'd seen for Times Magazine that is, for their February issue, if my producer can just put it on there. And it just clearly depicts the work that Joe Biden has ahead of him. I mean, you can see that the pile of, papers representing the work that he has to do, as well as the chaos that a lot of people would, look at the Trump administration to have done in their time in the White House. So definitely, he has his work cut out for him, doesn't he, Abby?
He definitely has his work cut out. And beyond even, I'm not going to use the word mess, that he's probably met in there or inherited. There are also the expectations that people have of him, So imagine carrying those very heavy shoulders. And he also has to be realistic about what he can achieve and the time frame in which he can do that. So, of course, there's that pressure to impress. And, he's just signed executive orders, a couple of them administrative, the others pretty much executive, which also has to be approved at some point. But he has to be also very realistic about time frame. And, of course, let's not forget, what is priority?
Doctor?
Well, the amount of work that the U.S. president has done in one day, or if you like, in 48 hours, has been quite extraordinary and impressive. But it is also typical. We express concern about it in places like Nigeria because, here we wait for months before government gets going. That's where people hit the ground running. They already have their cabinet list. And in fact, in President Biden's case, I say it's extraordinary because he's done in less than a week more than what previous presidents did, in about 2-3 weeks being in that office. But your main story is about the lifting of the ban on immigration rights for persons from other countries. You'll recall that Executive Order 13768 that was signed by President Trump in January 2017 placed restrictions on people from Iran, from Canada, from North Korea, from certain countries, because the Trump administration had this anti-immigration stance, keep the people out, America for Americans. Now, Nigeria didn't get onto that list until January 2020 or thereabouts. And the restriction was that, yes, Nigerians could come to the United States, but they are not allowed to stay permanently. And we were classed in the same category with Tanzania, with Myanmar, with Kyrgyzstan. What President Biden has now done is to lift this ban on what was called Muslim and African countries, Muslim and African ban. And I see that there is a lot of excitement among Nigerians. I've seen a lot of memes, people packing their loads. They want to go to the United States. But of course, what will happen is that the necessary protocols will still be observed. It's not as if America is going to open its doors and you can just relocate from Nigeria to the United States to go and live there and get a green card. There are procedures that will still be followed. But what we have seen is a globalist, sentiment on the part of the Biden administration. It's also reflected in the fact that in the immigration bill that is being sent to the Congress, the Biden administration is trying to remove the notorious phrase, illegal alien, in the phrasing of the Immigration Code of the United States. Because this new administration believes that the phrase illegal alien, which has been removed from the code in New York City and most recently in California, is dehumanizing. It denigrates people. So you see a new president, a new administration that correctly wants to frame the United States as a nation of immigrants, a nation that is internationalist, that is open. And that in itself is a way of the United States reclaiming its place as a world leader. However, the excitement that we have seen, particularly among Africans, is not as if the U.S. is just going to open its doors and just allow anybody from everywhere to come and relocate to the U.S. The rules will still apply because you can only go to another country at the pleasure of that country, and the rules are in place. But we have a president now in the U.S. who is more accommodating and who is more internationalist in his outlook.
Rufai, I mean, before you comment, we do know that one of the reasons why it was banned, apart from obviously Trump's personal reasons, is because they wanted Nigeria to improve on the data intelligence as well as, you know, how we share information, security reasons. Now that the ban has been taken off, do you think that the Nigerian government will continue to ensure that they have this in place, or well, is it just, okay, everything's going to go back to normal?
I mean, but we have something in place as regards that. That's why the need is going on. It's just that what I'm against is the way we're going about the need. But I support the need, funny enough. I support it. It's a great idea, but the way people are being rushed and you're putting deadlines in for people and you are threatening to cut their lines, that's what I don't support. And the chaos, because there's COVID-19. I mean, I lost somebody dear to me this morning for COVID-19. I just got the news while I was on air. It's real. I support it. And we should be able to share that information, you know, with the Americans and other countries of the world. But President Biden comes at a time where there's a lot to be done as regards America. There's a lot of distrust everywhere. People don't like America and the world. Their allies don't like them now because of what Trump has done. They don't get what America stands for. Biden needs to bring in that sense of confidence back, and that's what he's doing. He's hit the ground running. He knows what is ready. He knows what he's set to do, and he knows how to go about it. He's getting all the help necessary. He's got a great cabinet. Congress should be able to adopt that cabinet and pass them quickly so he can get people to work for him. That's what we should learn from. As a country, being a president is not rocket science. You know the goals in front of you. You know the things you're set to achieve. Just get on and do it. Just do it. That's what Biden is doing. That's why a lot of Americans are happy. He said it, my first 100 days, COVID. I want to get people vaccinated. That's the goal. We're in a war-like situation. People are dying. And he's doing it. The first meeting he held was about COVID. A lot is going in place. He talked about immigration and the ban. He's doing it already. He promised. I pray for a day in our own country where our leaders will promise something and they will do it, where we can hold them truly by their manifesto. If he doesn't do it, the American people will record it down, and when it's at midterm elections, they will punish him for not doing the things he has said he will do. So he better does it, and he's doing it. I just pray our democracy goes to a stage where you don't do what you promised the citizens that you were going to do, we'll be able to punish you in the next election. Simple and sharp. Congrats, Biden.
Thank you very much for that, Rufai. Let's move on now to our next story. A Kano State Appeal Court has set aside the death sentence imposed on Yaha Sharif Aminu, a Kano-based singer convicted for blasphemy. The singer was sentenced to death by hanging by an upper Sharia court sitting in Kano on August 10, 2020. Sharif, however, appealed the judgment days after the court pronouncement. Well, while delivering the judgment on Thursday, the state's Chief Judge Nuruddin Segar said the lower court's proceedings were characterized by irregularities. He also ordered that the case be tried before a different judge and Sharif be granted full legal representation. Oh, I remember when the story broke in August. I mean, I couldn't believe that he was being sentenced to death by one of the most horrible ways imaginable, hanging because of a song that he had released, which they had stated was blasphemous to the religion. I mean, I get that he had done something wrong, but the death penalty just seemed a bit too harsh. So to hear that it's been set aside, makes me really glad. I mean,
yes, personally, I'm still trying to get over the fact that, I mean, this is a humanitarian issue. Sorry, I'm like short of words because pretty much death by hanging. How blasphemous were the words? And is that justifiable in terms of how equitable the course of the penalty? Yes, with regards to that. But of course, it's really great to hear. It's a relief to hear that he can go. Probably not scot-free because this is going to happen. Not just with him, even after his retrial. And of course, this is not a debate on the Sharia law. Of course, that's within its own limits and within its own rights for proponents of it. But humanitarian also is the key word that comes to mind.
Yeah. Doctor?
Well, there are two cases. Let's take them one after the other. The first case is the one involving Yahya Aminu. And the Kano High Court has said that the case should be taken back to the Sharia court for a retrial. The trial should begin de novo, that is afresh. And the court is, resting its position on Section 269, subsections 3 and 4 of the Administration of Criminal Justice Law, which says that, look, if you have a case in court, you are entitled to legal representation. And that is on all fours with Section 36 of the 1999 Constitution of Nigeria, which talks broadly about fair hearing. An accused person is entitled to fair hearing. Now, what happened in the court of first instance, the Sharia court, was that when this matter was taken to court, one, Aminu was not given legal representation. Even the Legal Aid Council could not come to his rescue. And then, of course, he was summarily sentenced to death by hanging. And this caused a lot of outrage. And an NGO came up, the Freedom for Religion Forum, and they were able to get a lawyer, Kola Alakmane, who is his counsel, who now went to court because the law allows you that if you have been sentenced or convicted under the Sharia, which is a personal orthodoxy law, you can seek redress in the regular courts of the land. And hence they went to the High Court. And the High Court has now ruled in his case that that case should be taken back to the Sharia court to enable him to have legal representation. Yeah. So the case is not over yet. Whatever comes out of that Sharia court, I'm sure that his lawyers, are determined. In fact, Kola Alakmane, the counsel, is saying that they are ready to see the matter all the way to the Supreme Court. Then there is another case in which the convicted person, a 17-year-old boy, Umar Farouq, who had also on the grounds of blasphemy been sentenced to 10 years imprisonment. The court discharged and acquitted him on the grounds that, again, this was a case of a miscarriage of justice. And I think that that is a good development. The minor, under no circumstance whatsoever, should not have been sentenced to 10 years imprisonment. So it's a good development from the perspective of, due process, human rights, and also justice. And I hope that other persons who find themselves in similar circumstances will get the kind of legal support provided pro bono by that foundation and also by Kola Alakmane. We'll take a short break. When we return, the Morning Show will continue. Welcome back to the Morning Show here on the Arise News channel. Still with us is Sheitan Atigarin with stories trending from around the world.
I'm going to miss your introduction. All right, then, Rufai, let's bring it to you. We're talking about the case of this Kano singer who has been told to go back to the Sharia courts and also get legal representation. What do you think?
I'm happy about that. Justice has prevailed. You cannot just summarily, and I use the word summarily, deny a man of his rights and say he should be hanged because he's blasphemous. I don't want to talk in legal terms now. The law is taking its course. But the question I want to ask is, who determines blasphemy? You kill somebody in the name of God you call love because he speaks against God. Will God be happy about it? God talks about in the Quran and in the Bible about not taking a life because of the sanctity of a life. but you are so hungry to take that life because that life spoke against God. Why don't you leave that life with God for its own judgments? Why do you want to be God on earth?
Rufai?
I'm done.
Oh, okay. All right, then let's move on to our next story. Minister of Humanitarian Affairs, Disaster Management and Social Development, Sadiya Farouq, has announced that the federal government will give 24.3 million poor Nigerians 5,000 naira each for a period of 6 months. The total sum, which translates to 729 billion naira within the 6-month period, within a 6-month period. In a statement issued by the minister's aide, Nneka Nibeze, the intervention would serve as cushion for those further impoverished by the COVID-19 pandemic. The minister has also said the Rapid Response Register was designed to rapidly identify, register and provide succor to people who were not previously captured in the social register. Now let's talk about this. 729 billion naira. Where can I sign up to collect my own 5,000? Because I don't get it.
As soon as you find out, please let me know. Please let me know. But Shaitan, let's get into this, really. I mean, I heard the story yesterday, and the first thing that came to my mind was, this is a classic example of give a man a fish and feed him for a day. These people you're giving 5,000 naira. Now, I understand the innocence behind it, but I'm also questioning, is the government being deliberately obtuse? Because if we look at the amount, that is a staggering financial investment. If we think about what we could do with that for the long term, vocational training, employment is the issue here. If you give somebody 5,000 for 6 months, right? What happens after 6 months? He has become accustomed to that. How is he going to sustain his life after that? And that's really what our focus should be. What's the long-term plan for the poor, and what do we define? What I could say I'm poor, just so I can get that 5,000 naira. How do we define what poverty is? And I think we need to look at it from a definitional point. What are the root causes of poverty in the first place? And if you do not create an enabling environment for opportunities that will exist further than that, then you are pretty much perpetrating what exists.
I mean, the plan is to bring 100 million Nigerians out of poverty, so maybe this is one of the schemes to do so. Yeah. Doctor?
Well, I commented on this at some length yesterday. I think the additional thing to do is to raise further questions, and those questions are as follows. This is not the first time that the Ministry of Disaster Management and Humanitarian Affairs will talk about, this kind of scheme. The last time it was done, it was very controversial. Nigerians raised the question, who are the people who collected the money? How was the National Social Register, how was it composed? Because there were questions about the fairness of that National Social Register and whether or not it favored one part of the country or the other. Now, the same question is likely to arise now particularly now that the register has ballooned to a population of about 48.3 million poor people. So who are those poor people? Where are they from? Is the ministry going to advertise that register so that it can be vetted for the purposes of transparency and accountability, so that we can have a proper distribution of the poor people of Nigeria who are going to benefit from this 5,000 naira per month for 6 months in the age of COVID? What is the guarantee that the scheme that raised so many questions the other time will also not be controversial this time around? Now, we're told that it's a rapid response scheme that will be technology-driven and data-driven, and that will promote financial inclusion. How will this promote financial inclusion? Where is the technology that is going to drive it? We need more explanation in that regard. Now, the Vice President, commenting on this, because he is the key person in charge of the Economic Sustainability Program, says that Nigeria is going to have to look for the money. Look for the money from where? Is it budgeted for? Is it inside the budget? Or we're going to borrow money to be giving people 5,000 every month? Now, the amount that is involved, over 700 billion naira over a period of 6 months, that's even more than the amount that we're talking about to get vaccine, 400 billion naira. Okay, since this is a COVID-19 period matter. Okay, is it not better if, in fact, we can get that money to use that money to get vaccines and to fund the vaccination program? I cited the example earlier today of South Africa desperately offering $5.5 per dose for the AstraZeneca vaccine that is being produced by the Serum Institute of India. And because they face an emergency and they see that they can get the vaccine by the middle of February, they say they are willing to pay to protect a critical segment of the South African population. Now, we want to take over 700 billion and just distribute it. Now, the vaccine that is being provided by the AU, 270 million doses to be provided for African countries, is being provided at the cost of $3 per dose. Now, why don't we take this money, if we have it, and then use it to get out of that 270 million doses, in addition to what is coming from COVAX Alliance, and begin to vaccinate Nigerians? At least let us vaccinate as many people as possible. Because, in other words, what I'm saying is that if we have that money, we should spend it constructively for maximum effect. If you are going to give people 5,000 naira per month, what can 5,000 naira
really
buy? I mean, with inflation at almost 20%, what can you buy with 5,000 naira in today's Nigeria? So if this is part of the public health strategy, I think there may be a need to open up this for greater discussion, not to be talking about spending 729 billion naira, and we are not even sure who will get that 5,000 naira, because we will need information as to how that 5,000 naira will be distributed. If they insist on it, you want out of that 5,000 naira. I'm sure Abi wants to, and I'm sure I would like to have, and Rufai will not reject it.
That's already 20K like that. Rufai, let's talk about this.
No, Dr. Abati, they will not buy vaccines. You know why? Because they can't chop out of the vaccine money. That's just the reason. And I'm in grief this morning. And I keep asking, who did this to us as a country? This 700 billion is plus the 47 billion we gave out for 774 jobs, where we only saw cutlasses. And
wheelbarrows.
And wheelbarrows.
Yes.
Plus the money that was shared during the last lockdown, which is another close to 300-something billion. So in this, if I check properly, this humanitarian ministry has gotten over 1-point-something trillion since the lady got in there as minister. But yet we can't account for it. We keep throwing the baby away with the bathwater. You don't need to give all this subvention. You see, the reason, the indication that governments are giving this subvention is the indication that we have failed as a nation. And in not this government, successive governments. In the 70s, 80s, you don't need to give subvention out, but people were at jobs in the north. The Nasruddin family from Eritrea set up NASCO factory in Jos, was employing over 40,000 people. UNTC in Kaduna textile factory was employing thousands of people. You needed to see seas of people coming out of the production line. They were jobs. Nobody needed to talk about poverty. And we missed the point. It's not by giving these stipends that will end poverty. Let the factories boom. Create jobs. These are not jobs. We are missing the point. This will be frittered away in corruption. You can't account for it. Minus, let me now add plus the 500 billion that was given out in school feeding program. And we were feeding students that were at home during lockdown. We're still feeding them on the full school feeding programs. This is not the idea. This is not what moves an economy. When the Nigerian economy was so buoyant in the 70s that the president then, Gowon, did say the problem is not money but how to spend it, is because Nigeria then had factories that were running in the north and other parts of the country. Let businesses thrive. Businesses want to thrive. You trample upon them with taxes. Because you have not saved over the years now, you want to collect all the money from taxes from businesses when you are supposed to be supporting them to grow, because you forget in a hurry. That is, when these businesses do well, they'll be able to employ Nigerians. We keep missing the approach. Even the countries that do conditional cash transfer scheme, they peg it with an idea. Brazil, which is the greatest argument a lot of people go to, Bolsa Familia, pegged it with education growth. So before Brazil will give you a stipend, your child has to finish school or has to be going to school, because they know that if your child can go to school and get a job in the end, you will get off the poverty ladder. And that's why Lula da Silva brought 20 million people out of poverty in the favelas and the ghettos of Brazil. But here we miss the point. All these monies will be wasted.
Anyway,
I ask again, who bewitched us?
The overriding argument of the federal government is that Nigeria needs a social security scheme that will promote financial inclusion and also alleviate poverty. I think where the disconnect is thinking through how that social security scheme will be put in place in a country that has the challenge of data, that has challenge in terms of population. We don't even know how many we are. We don't know who is who. We don't know who is poor and who is not poor. But, well, thank you very much.
Thank you for having me.
Shaitan, thank you very much.
Thank you for having me.
Enjoy your weekend.
Yes, have a good
you
one.
are ready for it.
I'm ready, TGIF.